A sequel to The Survivors, The Aftermath, a brief of the aftermath. Johnson looked up at the boy. At age 25, he was a fine specimen of manhood. His writing now was completed, along with the thousands of other magnetic tapes now stored in Pete, the most magnificent electromagnetic analytical coordinating computer ever designed and improved. His would be added to complete the history of mankind and the total knowledge of the civilized world, and be the first chapter in the brain's great storehouse of knowledge. All the knowledge, science, mathematics, etc., of the civilized world. The boy was Richard Ingalls, son of the now famous Commander Ingalls, who had died 3 years before. Johnson could understand the shadow on the boy's face. Like his father, his mother had suffered an early death only a week ago. Their unity had produced 5 children. The 2 older brothers and sisters, also 2, were all married, with families of their own. Fortunately, the World Repopulation Program had been successful. The monstrous electronic brain no longer controlled the pattern of life of who married whom, except in an improving sense for 5th-generation marriages. Johnston could understand the shadow on the boy's face. Like his father, his mother had also suffered an early death only a week ago. Their unity had produced 5 children. The 2 older brothers and sisters, also 2, were all married with families of their own. Fortunately, the World Repopulation Program had been successful. The monstrous electronic brain no longer controlled the pattern of life of who married whom, except in an improving sense for 5th-generation marriages. The patterns have gone wrong, Richard said slowly. Johnson smiled. I don't follow you. I am 25. I should have been married, but now it is out of the hands of the machine, and I'm all alone. Alone? Nonsense. You have many friends. Friends? Ha, sure. I know hundreds of people who say hello to me, talk to me, smile at me. My father was a great hero, a specialist figurehead, founder of Newer Settlement. Oh, yeah. And creator of the great peace movement, world government, and all the rest. Oh, yes. I have many friends because my father was a great man. And you want to be great like him? No. All I want is what any man would want, a woman. Johnson shook his head. You used to be quite a playboy, plenty of women. But none I loved. There never has been. I don't think there ever will be. But why not? In the olden days, marriage and love was practically forced by the necessities of repopulation, the strains of post-atomic Earth, and the conditions of those years created pressures and forces which were conducive to love. Last night, I figured it out on Pete. First, I eliminated all the current unions of marriage and engagement. Then I added the love affairs and romantic attachments. There were exactly 103 women left and 104 association factors. They matched up almost perfectly, except one got left out, me. Of the 103 eligible women, all have eligible husbands. Of the 104 eligible men, only I am left out. You know the law. Anything under 15 is off limits and under 15. Pete and Andrea Summers were the oldest inhabitants of the Earth, the only remaining survivors of the original pre-atomic Earth. They were old now, very old. The end was in sight. They had watched their 8 children all marry according to the program established by Pete, the electronic brain. Andrea and Pete had watched their little sister get married, and now Kate's baby was married to Johnston, and Johnston had told Pete how the generated problem had gone foul. Though the brain's control should reach to the 5th generation, it was this, the 6th and 7th, which would be having troubles. Pete could only nod. The problem was grave. Lonely, unneeded men do produce problems, many problems. Fortunate that young Ingalls found this problem, even if he did do it all out of loneliness, Pete responded. We can counter it with genetic controls, produce enough girls for all the current crop of boys. With people getting married and having babies so young nowadays, it could become a real problem. New York City, capital of the planet Earth, in the year 2067, issued the proclamation, genetic controls to control the boy-girl ratio, a simple matter of drugstore and electronic brain population control. Johnson smiled at the young man behind the desk. Richard Ingalls, you have stirred up a hornet's nest, he said. So thousands cheer. Still unhappy. I don't know. It doesn't solve my problem. Isn't that being a bit selfish after all? You're not the first man who will have gone through life without marrying. Maybe you can have an affair or knock it off. I'm alone in a world where everyone is happily married and making babies and I don't. No, if I understand you, I've never had to suffer from loneliness. Well, bully for you. You want to know what kind of a life, personal hell it is to come home every night to an empty room? Let me tell you something, mister. It hurts like hell. Every time I see lovers kiss, it's like a knife cutting out my guts. Every time I see a wedding, I want to break down and bawl like a baby. Every time I see a couple walking hand in hand or embracing, my insides get all twisted up. I wish I could help you, but what? I'll help myself. I'm launching a space probe tomorrow. Johnson didn't understand it, so man would search for the answer to his loneliness in outer space. Now Earth Governmental Coordinator Breckenridge was upset. The rocket launching yesterday had been completely without sanction. Richard Ingalls had not only taken off without authorization, but he had used the electronic computer to make a modified vehicle with an unknown course and destination, having taken the operating plot tape with him. Where was he and his rocket ship headed? Certainly no the moon colony or the Mars colony, not with this sort of spaceship. No, I didn't know that, Johnson exclaimed into the Visa phone. He said he was going to make a space probe, but I assumed he meant some sort of scientific unmanned satellite probe and nothing like this. But why did he do it? Breckenridge asked. It's one hell of a problem. I hope he doesn't do anything irrational, apparently a case for mental health authority. No, Johnson disagreed. I don't think it's unbalanced or mental. I think it's the normal reaction to the problems which he faces and the normal desires which every man has. That and realization that those desires can never be fulfilled under present circumstances. Perhaps we can protect the future by under present circumstances. There could be a lot of trouble. I don't follow you. It could build within him. This bit of loneliness could grow until it's something that controls him. I don't think he's going to commit suicide, but there could be some sort of other reaction. Hatred against society, against women, against present social concepts. He might do physical damage to someone, like rape. Breckinridge was aghast. Rape in this day and age? The primitive, brutal crime committed usually out of hatred or lust. Could loneliness drive a man to commit rape? The coordinator called mental authority. Well, sir, came the reply. We haven't run into such a situation in post-atomic Earth. Sciences of pre-atomic Earth may have been primitive, but they seldom associated rape with loneliness. Under the present and proper circumstances, it might be possible. Breckinridge gaped again. Then he ordered Space Control to track and plot Richard Ingalls' spacecraft. Space Control to Coordinator Breckinridge. Space Control to Coordinator Breckinridge. Breckinridge flipped the visophone button on. Breckinridge here. Report on Ingalls, sir. He's just headed out towards Saturday. Trip day number 32. Would reach his destination, probably one of the moons, but which one? Probably Titan, the largest with an ammonia-methane atmosphere. Mostly methane, but with a low density, the orange moon of Saturn. At 14:30, Coordinator Breckinridge arrived at Space Control's radio and communication control headquarters. For the next several hours, he conducted a time-lapsing talk with Ingalls. Two things became immediately apparent. Ingalls would not say where he was going nor why, and he would not turn back. After that, the rest was formality. If Jensen was right and the world had been blown to hell on this theory because of his speed, less hours would pass in his travel than did on Earth. While he, Richard Ingalls, would age 1 year, those on Earth would age 3 or 4, perhaps. There was a brief overproduction of females in that future time period, according to Pete, the electronic brain, and perhaps he could get one for his own. Perhaps it was a crazy way to go wife hunting in time, but in the memories of other lovers was just too much. Out here in space, he did not feel the loneliness, even though he was really alone. Back there on Earth, watching the others in the gaiety and joy, it was just a bit too much. The best laid plans of mice and men went an old speech from some long-forgotten play. For Richard Ingalls, it had been a year. Now, newer settlement on the old continent of South America lay below. The loneliness, the emptiness, the vastness, the nothingness seemed to combine in one heart-shredding rent which tore him asunder. There were 3 of them waiting. Mary Hines had a husband in the mine, night work. To Anita, Joe was only a boyfriend, but a real good friend. The electro patterns said their wedding would be a success. To Jean Bradford, it was just a man, but she liked him and she cared. Someone was dead, perhaps 2. One had survived to bring the news of the cave-in to the radio communication device. Perhaps, if the others did act quick enough, or were not lucky enough, all 3 might die. On their minds also was one Richard Ingalls. If they lost their man down in the mines, one of them would be expected to marry him when he returned. Not that they might want to, but the community expected it. They could refuse. It wouldn't be held against them except in conscience. It had taken an atomic war and many hard struggles for man to again gain the upper hand over women, to again become the boss, the ruler of his own home. The word at 1537, Mary Hines was a widow with 3 children, 2 married already at 15 of age. Anita Donaldson was without a boyfriend, and she cried. Jean Bradford would have to look for another man. At 1600, Richard Ingalls' spacecraft landed at the port at New Earth Settlement. And so, Coordinator Breckenridge was saying, with the reduced radiation potential in Europe, that continent and the continent of North America, along with Australia and New Zealand, will again be inhabitable. There was a smattering of applause, mostly out of respect, as the coordinator resumed his seat. The MC took over to announce the dancing, and Richard Ingalls entered the community center of New Earth City. According to the commuted stats, Richard Ingalls' problem would never again face any man or woman, but it did face Richard Ingalls, the age-old problem of men and women. But now there were 3 available women, and for some strange reason, he did not desire any of them. He felt aloof, above them. Mary Hines he immediately discounted. She'd had hers, and the other 2. They seemed cold and remote. Scientifically, either one would have been okay, but there are some things which science cannot measure. One of these things was the strange emotional changes which were occurring to Richard Ingalls. Suddenly he hated women. He hated the static matching, like some test tube experiment. Hate with a capital H. Anita Donaldson wanted him. Jean Bradford wanted him. Mary Hines wanted him. And Mary Hines was the first to dance with him. He was awkward, but she said nothing. He had pleaded that he didn't know how to dance with either of them. Neither had overcome his refusal. Anita Donaldson was the last. Another lousy dance. I don't know how to dance, and I hate dancing. You mean sorry? Say it. No. Damn it, I say it. Well, look, dancing only a way of getting acquainted. I mean, I don't knock it. Relax to enjoy it. Relax to enjoy it. I do. Ha! Don't you like to feel my arms around you? She asked desperately. There's only one way I like you, dollies, he said at length. Flat on your back. She looked up into his eyes. You don't have to be so crude about it. Time passed slowly. The hour grew late. Finally they left together, Jean Bradford and Richard Ingalls. You have a beautiful home, she commented after he had turned on the lights. Yeah, should be, with the billion credits my old man piled up. Sorry, 'cause you can't be famous like him? Something like that. It's just a matter of circumstances. How about that drink? She looked over the house while he mixed the alcoholic concoction, and time seemed to drift as their lips met. Kiss followed kiss, one led to the other. His fingers searched the warmth of her body. Bravely they stole up her thigh. Suddenly, without warning, she straightened up. That's far enough. Just what kind of act are you trying to pull? He said. I'm a nice girl. Not in this day and age, you ain't. Like the man said, it was fun while it lasted. Oh, yes, it is, lover boy. I'm not that damn easy. Easy? Hell, this has nothing to do with being easy. If you think I'm going to settle for an affair. Suddenly she slapped him. She climbed her way past him and let herself out. He was about to slam the door when Anita stepped in. Get lost, he said harshly. No. You know what happens if you step inside that door? She smiled and nodded. Jean's playing the trite virgin, phony but realistic. She would have made a good actress in the olden days. And you? He asked. I know what I want. I know what I will have to pay to get it. She stared at him icily, defying him, daring him. Doesn't it bother you? I mean, losing your boyfriend? You think I'm being a machine tool? The brain picked him, not me. For us, it just gave a genetic okay. The rest is up to me. Sure, that dullard was fine. Scientifically, he was mechanically perfect. I mean, if he had one little imperfection, like maybe he couldn't talk English very well, or maybe he couldn't type, or maybe he couldn't do little wrong things, or he couldn't tie his shoes, or anything. She stopped for a breath of air, but he did everything perfect. No trouble. Typed 80 words per minute. Spoke with that damn, correct Englishman English accent, never made a grammatical error. Genius with mechanical and electronical gears. Headed research in the mind division. As a man, he was perfect. If we'd gotten married, that'd been the end of it. We would have nothing to work for in our marriage, no goal, nothing to do, but have sex, sex, sex. No arguments, no quarrels, no problems to solve together. Hell, we wouldn't even have anything to talk about. So I created a problem. I refused to marry him, and that was all that we had between us. Richard nodded. It was rather an amusing problem. So now you think you can just walk in here and the next minute have me machine you to the altar? It ain't that altar I had in mind that comes later. The bed first? I guess so. Now's a hell of a time to try and decide. Look, he said, but he didn't. He threw her down on the couch with such force that she fell off and laughed on the floor. Before she had a chance to regain her breath or counter, he was on her. Her clothing. Bit by bit, piece by piece, he ripped off her garments until she was naked. One part of her mind, her basic womanly instinct, wanted to fight, but coldly, with intense control, she fought her instincts and defeated them. Under him, she became completely submissive, allowing her body to absorb all the abuse and agony which his body thrust upon her, taking away the anguish within. The morning hurt. The agony of her submission, acceptance of the brutal rape, now thrusted itself upon her. In memory and physical sensation, now she sensed what was inside of this man. In the last few seconds, she had even responded to his assault. Did he hate woman? Rape is an act of hatred, not of love. Last night, well, she was just a woman, but there was something special about the assault. It was not a well-defined thought, she thought. She knew. But could you really put on an accurate definition into it? And then she knew. Last night, she was not the woman he had selected. Was she? Or had been just a woman? And he took all his anger and all his fury aroused by the lack of love and release out on her. Out on her. She had become the symbol of all that was lacking in his life. All of the heartaches and thwarted affairs of his life, and now? He murmured and rolled over on the floor. Like he was naked. Only the blanket which she had at last dragged from the bedroom covered them. She had also brought pillows on which their heads now rested. You still here? He mumbled. I'm still here. After last night? After last night. You're either the damnedest whore there ever was or a masochist. Or you really lost your mind and flipped. Yeah, flipped over you. Why? I rejected you, he said. Did you? Either you're crazy or I am. Maybe we both are. I really put you through hell, didn't I? Yes, you did. And you took it. I practically asked for it. Why? I love you. You're nuts. You're totally nuts. I suppose so. We don't have much to talk about, do we? Do we? I suppose we do. We do. We do? I'd rather make love. That's the best deal I've had all day today. And if I rape you, you won't. How do you know? You won't rape me. And how do you know? A woman always knows. And she did. The basic problems had been eliminated. True. Computed marriages, however, were outlawed. 3 days later, the computer was used only to establish genetic relations for people who asked for it.